So in this case, we're going to be looking at ACT scores in our standardized test. And it turns out ACT, overall test scores, as well as individual test scores, that is on the sections, are about normally distributed, average of 20.8, and standard deviation of 4.8. So what we're going to be doing here is looking at something a little bit different. We're going to be asking ourselves, what percent of people are between a 19 and a 23 on the ACT. So here we're asking an actual between value. Now because we're finding a percentage like we've been doing in previous problems, we're going to start this the same exact way. That is by going ahead and finding the z-score. Now what I want you to notice is that there are actually two different values here. There's a 19 and a 23. And since there's two different values, we're going to find two different z-scores. So I'll find one first of all for that 19. So I'll put 19 minus the average of 20.8 and divide it by 4.8. And then I'll go ahead and I'll do the same thing for my other value. That is, I'll plug in 23 minus 20.8 divided by 4.8. And I'm finding two of these values because, once again, I have two different scores I'm looking at. So rounding to two decimal places, as we will always do with our z-scores, I'm going to go ahead and write over here I have negative 0.38, and over here I've got a z-score of 0.46. So two different z-scores because I got two different observations. The next step, I'm going to go ahead and draw these out. So with my beautiful bell curve here, I'm going to put both of my z-scores on it. I've got a z-score of negative 0.38, that's below the center. And I've got one at 0.46, that's above the center. And what I'm actually looking to find here is the percentage of people in between these. So I'm actually looking to find this value right here. Now the problem is the z-table doesn't give me in-between percentages, so the only thing I can do is look at left end, lower end. So I'm going to start this by looking at the larger of the two lower ends. That is, what happens if I trace this from 0.46 over. Now keep in mind that what I actually want is to go ahead and find the gray area. So what I just did is I said, okay, I can't find the gray area, but I can go ahead and divide this off and look at all of that. This is what would happen if I looked at z equals 0.46 on my table. Now once again, that's actually too large, and it overshoots by this amount right here. And so if I look at these two, I found the green one, and I can also really easily find the blue one. What I'm actually looking for is what is in between those. And so by looking at this then, I can tell that if I actually went ahead and found the green area and then subtracted off the blue area, I would be okay. I'd find the gray area in between. This tells us that anytime we want to find an in-between probability, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll find the larger of the left end tails, and then we'll subtract off what we find for our second end tail. This takes us into step 3 then. For step 3, I need to go ahead and pull up my table. I'm going to be looking for 0.46 and negative 0.38. Because both of these are lower end tails, I don't need to worry about flipping my z-score over or taking like 1 minus anything. I'm literally just going to look at 0.46 on the table. So when I look at z equals 0.46 on the normal distribution table, I find that the percentage on the end there, as a decimal, is 0.6772. That is, once again, this green area. That's too much area though, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract off what I get when I look at z equals negative 0.38 on the table. When I look at that, I'm going to get 0.3520. So this is the blue, this is the green. To get the in-between, I'm just going to subtract them. And when I do this, I get 0.3252. So in summary, when I want an in-between, I'm going to find two different z-scores. I'm going to draw, showing my lower and my smaller end tail. I'll find my upper value, use that to go ahead and find a percentage like I did here. Use my lower value to find a percentage like I did here, and then I'll subtract them to get the in-between. So in short, in this answer here, we asked what percentage of people are between a 19 and a 23 on the ACT, and we found it's actually about 32.52% of people who will score in between those two numbers.